This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, rel-mar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, and for the next 4 hours, I am your host. I am your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X-Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern, right here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and our growing family of broadcast affiliates right around the world, including iHeartRadio. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And if you'd like to find out about the programming we have available for you, 724-365 on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit www.xzbn.net. X-Zone Nation, my first guest tonight is Michael Furie. Michael is the author of Spellcasting for Beginners, Supermarket Magic, Spellcasting Beyond the Basics, and the new Supermarket Sabbats, all published by our good friends at Llewellyn Worldwide. His hobbies include cooking, reading, and researching magic, witchcraft, and paganism. Practicing which for more than 20 years, he is the priest of the goddess, I hope I pronounce this right, Kalia. Is that how you pronounce it, Michael?
Kalia, yeah.
All right, and he can be found online at MichaelFurie.com. That's MichaelFurie.com. And Michael, welcome to the X-Zone.
Thank you for having me.
Michael, what was it that drew you to witchcraft?
Honestly, it feels like it's been a lifelong pursuit. I remember being a little kid, and anytime I would see anything magical on television or in a movie, it felt like such a draw to me. And I was never officially anything else. I wasn't raised in any specific religion, so I just kind of grew towards it. I remember being 9 years old in a library, checking out books on magic and like the witch trials and mythology and things like that. So it's just been a lifelong thing with me.
Why do you think in the 21st century that witchcraft and paganism is so popular?
I think that there's been a lot of oppression, honestly, and it seems like it's when people are discovering it, that there's such a sense of freedom that goes along with it. There's not a bunch of rules or commandments that you can't do this, you can't do that. It's more fun, and it's less harsh, I think, for the most part.
All right, now as the priest for the goddess Kalia, what are your responsibilities, and how did you choose this deity, or did this deity choose you?
A little bit of both. I had a very strong meditative experience a long time ago in the 90s, where it felt like she came to me, and I have always I've always been very aligned with, because I wasn't aware of her at the time, but always very aligned with her self, where I much prefer the winter half of the year to the summer half, because where I live it gets very hot. So I always hated heat, didn't much care for summertime, loved the winter, and she's basically the goddess of the winter half of the year. So that spoke to me, and she just kind of, it was such a fit that it didn't seem like I couldn't be devoted to her. You know, it's like, it's one of those lightning bolt kind of things where, yes, she's the one for me.
All right, how many different goddess or deities are there in witchcraft?
It really depends. A lot of time, it depends on the region. Most, I wouldn't even say most actually, many modern practitioners pick two from a pantheon that speaks to them. So there'll be a god and a goddess. Sometimes there'll be a god and a goddess and somebody that oversees that. That's sort of kind of my style, is mostly just devoted to her, but it really varies by region, because like old style witchcraft was the paganism in Europe mostly, and they had regional gods or national gods.
All right, Michael, stand by. We've got to take our first commercial break. Exonation Michael Furie is our guest. www.michaelfurie.com, and Furie is spelled Furie. That's michaelfurie.com. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network and our worldwide affiliates, including iHeartRadio.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. www.michaelfurie.com is our guest this hour website, Michael Furie, and he is a priest for the goddess, or of the goddess, Cailleach. And when you discovered that you were a witch, how did you feel, and how were your friends and families, how are they taken by the news that you were going to be becoming a priest for a witchcraft deity?
I think I was extraordinarily lucky. My family wasn't really bothered by it. My mother has a very strong interest in astrology, and I think that helped. And she studied a little bit of witchcraft in the 70s, so it didn't, come out of nowhere for her. So I think I kind of had a bit of good luck with that. So as far as being a priest, Cailleach, she's usually considered pretty dark, so that anytime people hear like, oh, she's a dark goddess and is she mean and scary and everything. People kind of worry about that sometimes, but it's not that. I would say she's stern, certainly. No nonsense approach. So, but I think the most reassurance I've ever had to do is she's not an evil deity, kind of a thing. That there hasn't been a lot of arguments or family strife because of it.
Tell us about your book, Supermarket Sabbats.
Okay, I wrote it sort of as an unofficial sequel to Supermarket Magic because I wanted it to be a full guide for each of the holidays with items, products, oils, and things to make where you could just get all the ingredients for them at a supermarket or any one of the large chain stores, because I haven't really seen that out there. It's rare. I wanted to, because a lot of times for an oil or an incense recipe or whatever, there'll be these really rare or expensive ingredients, and that seems to be a stumbling block a lot in magic. And I kind of wanted to overcome that for myself and for anybody that wanted to have the book too.
Well, let me just ask you this before we go further. The fact that you're using different or less expensive ingredients in the spell, does that affect the power or the potency of the spell?
No. I when I first started researching for the Supermarket Magic book, I was really surprised how many ingredients that we can get at the supermarket now used to be rare and expensive, hundreds of years ago. It's like cinnamon doesn't really exist, in my local area to grow, but we get it we get these things so easily now, but it used to be such a rare, exotic thing. Even salt was so prized back in the old days. So I think it's more a perspective on it, that it seems easier now, but it's in the old days, maybe sandalwood was a lot easier to obtain than cinnamon or something, So I think that it doesn't diminish the power, because all the ingredients that are in the book are still aligned with the forces that are trying to be drawn through. So it's still the same type of magic, even if it's a different ingredient, because it's not really substitution, it's just a different way of approaching it.
How does magic work?
I think of it as a blending of intention and energy that focuses towards a specific goal, and you release that, and then it's kind of mirrored back to you in the world. And a lot of people have different definitions of magic, but for me, it's all about transformation through intention and energy. It's almost like writing an email. You have the intention to do it, you type it up, and you send it, and then hopefully it gets the response you want.
Is there good and bad magic?
There can be. My view of it is energetic, so I think of it all like the power that's used is neutral in my viewpoint, and the good and the bad of it is the intention of the person that's using it and how they are sort of aiming it. If their intention is cruel, then it'll be cruel. But if I always try to do things without harm. It's just my natural inclination. So in my books, there's no bad magic, but some people will at least try to be bad sometimes.
So tell us about a few of the spells that are in your books, sir.
Okay. Each different section, it goes through the year, and it's by season. So each of the different spells and rituals in it go according to that season. So for now, in October, it's focused on Samhain, Halloween era. So there's things for releasing habits or things from your life that you don't want. There's a spell to cleanse your house and to try to cast out any negative feelings or energies. And there's celebratory ones to try and contact your ancestors. I have a very good ancestor oil in here, and there's food recipes too, but it's mostly oils, incenses, potions, that kind of thing. There's a spell in here, Key of Change, that helps you charge like energetically charge a key, and then use that to help manifest the change that you want. If you want to change of employment or a new place to live or something, to try and sort of unlock those magical doors.
So if somebody performs a ritual or a spell, how much of that depends on the person's own will to make whatever the change that they're seeking to happen, and what is the percentage of the actual magical factor?
I'm not sure that it can even be separated, because the will power is such a part of magic. I think in most of my books I've stressed that it's the way I look at it is kind of threefold, where you have thinking, feeling, and willing, and in order to do it successfully, you have to have a clear concept of what you want to happen, like the end result of the magic, and then infuse into that the feeling. The most important part for me is the feeling of how you want to feel when that goal is reached, and then using your willpower to accomplish it, then you sort of either charge a candle or a key or whatever the spell calls for. You sort of energetically infuse that, and then you release it. So it all runs together. If you have the thought and the feeling and the willpower forwards in that, in my view and how I've been trained, that's what activates the magic in the first place. You have to have that factor combination.
Who trained you?
A little bit by my mother, and I've had some friends that are also practicing that I've had help with, and then books. So friends, family, and books all kind of came together for me.
All right, but earlier in this interview, you said your mother was an astrologer. So was she also a witch?
I would call her witch adjacent, because she did study it, and she's helped guide me on not necessarily what to do, but how to do it properly. So she's sort of non-practicing, I guess. But I'm not sure that she ever officially was. Like, we haven't had too many conversations about it, but she knows all the basics. So she helped me sort of find my way.
So would you say that anyone could become a witch?
I think that there is potential for anyone to become one. It really has to... in my own view, I feel like it has to really speak to someone's heart in order for them to do it. But it is potentially possible for anyone to study magic and practice it, regardless of their background.
All right, so let me ask you, what would lead a person to witchcraft that is considered by many people a dark science or a dark part of the occult, compared to an organized, recognized religious philosophy?
Most of the people that I've come in contact with that have discussed that with me, usually it's a feeling of, if they were brought up in a certain religion, of feeling like they don't quite belong there, and then they sort of go and search out what speaks to them. And if the ones that turn to witchcraft, it just seems to click into place, and it's like they came home. That's like, I can't really speak on any kind of conversion process, because I sort of grew up into it. I didn't have to change from something else like a lot of people do, but that's usually kind of the consensus of opinion that I've gathered, is that they felt out of place, and with this, they feel like this is who they were meant to become.
What are the demographics when it comes to modern-day witchcraft? Are there more men, more ladies? What would the average age range of a witch be? What are their professions? What do they do in life? Are they college graduates, or are they just high school graduates? Or, there has to be some common thread.
Yeah, and initially, I think, and even still today, the majority of practicing witches are usually women, but there is an increasing amount of men that are becoming witches. There are a lot of it used to be so secretive that it was really hard to have demographics and things.
Yeah.
But now there's been a lot of polls taken, and the age range. The last time I saw any statistics on it, I think it was about like the 25 to 40 range is the most prominent, I believe.
Right.
And an increasing number of groups at colleges, there'd be like a club or something for paganism or for witchcraft or whatever. It's not organized by the college, of
Right,
course,
right.
but there's been a lot more practice, and it has grown so much. Paganism is becoming such a rapidly growing method of spirituality in the United States that it's drawing from all demographics, from all financial backgrounds, and there's been a lot of there's blue collar, white collar. It kind of runs the whole spectrum now. So,
is witchcraft and paganism found in a certain part of the world, or is it worldwide?
It's pretty worldwide. It depends. Well, because before the main, the big three religions took over, it was what's been labeled paganism is really the indigenous religious practices of different countries, and that before they were converted to Christianity or Islam or Judaism or anything. So it really is the initial practice of what's considered paganism is worldwide, and now it's sort of being reformed, and people are discovering their own roots or roots from other cultures that speak to them and just running with it. And I think it's amazing.
Michael, stand by. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Exo Nation, Michael Furie is our special guest. His website is michaelfurie.com. That's www.michaelfurie.com. That's michaelfurie.com. And Michael and I will return on the other side of the news as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't forget you can read the online version of the X Chronicles newspaper with our compliments at www.xchroniclesnewspaper.com. And we're also on Simul TV and their website, simultv.com.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back, everyone. Michael Furie is our special guest, and Michael is the author of Spellcasting for Beginners, Supermarket Magic, Spellcasting Beyond the Basics, and the new Supermarket Sabbats, all published by Llewellyn Worldwide. His hobbies include cooking, reading, and researching magic, witchcraft, and paganism. Michael is the priest of the goddess Kylyak. And he can be found at michaelfurie.com. And where do these names come from? Goddess Kylyak. Where do the names come from? Why are they so difficult?
I know. A lot of times from other languages, because she comes from her worship originated mostly in Ireland and Scotland.
So is she a Celtic goddess?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but like old school.
Gotcha.
So she goes way back. So, yeah. But it's one thing with pronunciation. A lot of times people get upset about that, but I've never really gotten upset because there's different ways to pronounce the same word depending on where the person's from.
Sure.
So all good. I don't think she minds.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's one thing I wouldn't want is a irate Celtic goddess after me.
Yeah.
Michael, would you say that the internet certainly has had a major play in the insurgence in the interest in witchcraft and paganism?
Definitely. Honestly, I think when the internet first started, because I remember being a teenager when the internet became a thing and going onto websites about witchcraft, and that helped so much. There was such a greater sense of connection than there could have been before that. Because now, especially with like Facebook and all the social media stuff, people can meet other people that share similarities instantly instead of desperately searching for like-minded people. Before it was like newsletters and trying to go to an occult shop and seeing if you could meet other people or if there were any gatherings. And now you can find one in probably 20 minutes, at least online.
Is there a central organization for all the different priests and goddesses and covens that are scattered around the country, or are each one of these covens separate?
There's no overreaching central organization. It's very individual. A lot of times, people can be grouped into different traditions, sort of like a different denomination. And the groups under that heading can have a coven structure that may know each other and have a shared background. That would be the closest thing, but there's no like grand authority. Like sometimes on television or movies, there'll be like a grand high witch or the queen of them or whatever. That doesn't really occur. We're very autonomous. I think that there's such a streak of individuality in witchcraft and in paganism in general. I think that would be rejected. Anybody trying to become a super leader and ruling over us all, I don't think that would work.
So there's no Vatican for the witches?
No.
Okay. And I guess there's no Grand Poobah as well. What are some of the most frequently asked questions you get asked when you're out in public, promoting your books and talking about witchcraft?
I get asked a lot about individual kind of spells. Like, what would be the best way to fill in blank? Usually a lot of spells, money spells, those are the top two that people want to know.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of comical questions like, can you turn somebody into a frog, that kind of thing. Mostly, I remember I did a workshop on love magic and ended up talking to somebody for probably about 20 minutes about just magic in general and how the best ways to practice and where it comes from. And I've had some amazing conversations with people that start off with one simple question and then it branches out because they really want to know more about witchcraft in general. And people approach it from such different directions. It's fascinating to me. A lot of times...
Go on.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, son.
A lot of times people come to it in various ways. If there's a TV show or a movie that comes out that portrays witchcraft, then there's a huge, like a groundswell of interest. And I always try, like, it's my goal, if people only read one of my books, I want to have as much information in there to help guide them in the right direction as possible. Or if they just flip through it in the bookstore, I want something positive for them.
Yeah, I'm no witch, and I don't know any spells, but I've found the best way to my own personal love spell is going to the florist and buying my wife a dozen roses. That seems to work very well for me.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Well, roses are supposed to be magically aligned for love, so I think that works.
Yeah, it must work because we have 6 kids, so one
wow.
up for the roses. How does being a witch, I should say, help you in your everyday life?
For me, there's much more feeling of being grounded and having a clear spiritual focus. So I don't feel lost. Because really before I officially became a witch, I was a teenager, really. But I felt directionless, and I have a very clear sense of direction now. And I honestly, I think I used at least a little bit of magic in everyday life. Now there's a spell I wrote. I think it was for 2014. One of those Llewellyn Spell a Day books for protection during travel that I use every day, every time I get in the car. So, and then things like blessing food when I'm making it, and any, it's just sort of, it's such a part of me that I couldn't imagine not being a witch.
All right, so let me ask you this: when you do a spell,
yeah,
and you are creating the spell and you are sending the spell out to the universe, so to speak, how does that spell affect only your life and not everyone else's life within the universe, since we're all connected? How does the spell beat the law of physics?
It's a very good point, is that it doesn't entirely do that. We are all connected, so in effect, it kind of does affect everybody's life, but usually there's ways how a spell is worded, the intention that you have, to these little checkpoints where if you do a spell properly, then the intention is to only for benefit and without harming anybody. If you put in there, if it's like a clause where if it's for the good of all people,
right,
so that it won't affect somebody negatively. That's how you prevent things like, I remember reading a lot of times people are worried or warned against doing money spells because they don't want money to come as a result of somebody getting in an accident or like an insurance settlement or an inheritance. But if you do a spell with the intention that it'll be for the highest good or for the good of all or with harm to none, then it puts it in the conditions that you're setting up for the magic that it won't be harmful.
All right, here's another question for you. Let's say Dick is in love with Jane, but Jane really wants nothing to do with Dick. Dick decides to use a love spell to make Jane fall in love with him. Isn't that a little wrong?
Yes, that's a terrible idea, and I would warn him against it, because it's the best kind of love spell to do is one for not on a person.
Not on a person.
Yeah, if you're basically asking for love in your life that is the best person for you, the most correct, the ideal love that you can have, and then that person, eventually you kind of, things line up and then you meet them. But if you do a spell on a specific person, especially if they don't really get along with you, that sets up very bad conditions for the relationship. Because if you get them, then it's basically through coercion. It's subconscious, but the way it affects people is it gets in, kind of gets into their subconscious mind and helps nag them into falling for the person, and that's going to be rejected, even if someone doesn't know that they have that kind of manipulative love magic cast on them. Eventually, it's going to sour the relationship, and along the way, a lot of times a spellcaster doing that doesn't really know the targeted person enough to know that they're not really compatible. So if you win the heart of the person, you get all their troubles and problems and quirks and headaches, and it sets up a doomed romance, basically. It's never a good idea to use manipulative magic on somebody, especially not for quote-unquote love, because love is usually geared towards you caring about the person more than yourself. But the doing a love spell on somebody is kind of the definition of selfish, because it's discounting that other person's feelings and just wanting to claim them and own them, really. And that never ends well.
So then what reason would anyone have seeking a love spell then?
To find the right partner.
But
it's the best reason to find the right partner for them, not because I work with so and so and I want them to love me. That's never a good reason. But if they want to have love, they want to be in love, they want to find somebody, that's a very good reason, because that sort of I would say it cuts down on the wait time. You know, it helps. It's like sending a signal out that only people that are compatible to you hear.
But how does the spell know that? How does it work? Like, you're creating a spell, and you've got this person who is looking for Mr. or Mrs. Right. They do the spell, and bang. How does the spell find Mr. or Mrs. Right, Miss or Mr. Right? And isn't that still a little unfair? Isn't that like mind control?
Not if it's done properly. It's not mind control so much as it just lines up the situation so that the people meet. Because there's no, this person must love me in it. It's, I want to find a compatible person.
What's the difference between doing a spell and going into the local bar?
It's good to do a spell and then go to the bar. Ups the chances. But, yeah, it's easy. Well, actually, it's not easy. It's difficult for people to find love in general. So it's using magic is kind of a bit of an edge, a bit of a secret weapon.
Placebo effect? Maybe a placebo effect?
I think some spells have been designed to work that way, but the magic that I practice is always energetic and intentional.
Okay.
So I don't think I've ever had anything work placebo effect myself.
All right, stand by. We've got to take our final break for this hour. X Zone Nation, Michael Furie is our guest. www.michaelfurie.com. And I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't forget, you can always send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Michael Furie is my guest this hour to X Zone Nation, www.michaelfurie.com. First of all, Mike, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we're coming up to that part of the year that everyone associates with witches, and I'm talking about Halloween. And I was wondering if you could tell us the way that you, as a practicing witch and a priest, look at Halloween and how it is celebrated by non-members of the pagan world.
I adore Halloween. It's my favorite holiday. Mostly for Samhain, the pagan aspect of it, but also I don't. I've never minded the commercialization of it, of the regular people part of it. I love going to the store and seeing all the candy and the decorations and everything. It's never bothered me. It does
Yeah.
bother some people though, some pagans, some witches. It upsets them a lot. But for me, it's fun.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, Cailleach is viewed as coming into power on the day, on the holiday. So for me, it's a high time. It's great. It's a big party. So it's in my practice, it's about honoring her and recognizing that this begins her half of the year, which ends on May Day, which is the opposite holiday to Halloween. And it's in kind of old style thought, the year was split into two, a light summer half and a dark winter half. And so Halloween starts the dark half of the year.
In your opinion, what is the most important aspect of witchcraft that you would like the listeners of the X-Zone Nation to know about?
I think that it is very important. One of the goals of witchcraft is it brings such a strong sense of identity and purpose and a view of not only the world but of the universe really into play, that it's very vital to not to go into anything. Like, I would have advice: never do anything based on blind faith alone. Like, try something and kind of see the results of that and move slowly and methodically through. So I think the most important part of it is its individuality and its techniques and ideas for harnessing your own power, which is another thing why it should never be about manipulative magic, because the most important part of it is us finding ourselves and us being strong with ourselves, so we don't really need to manipulate other people or harm anyone if we can fulfill our own goals our own way.
What advice do you have for people who may be deciding right now, after listening to you for the last 40 some odd minutes, that they would like to become a witch, that they have had the calling, and up until they heard your voice, they did not know where that calling was leading? Now they believe in their heart of hearts that witchcraft is where they should be focusing, where they should be putting their intent. What should they do first?
I would say read a lot, and that's not just because I'm a writer. Read all the new books and everything, but read classic works. Look at the history of it. There are books that have been around for decades. Doreen Valiente, she's one of the classic writers. Gerald Gardner, Charles Leland has written. There's so many important books out there that show the history of it and show how it's changed. If you look at the first books out there about witchcraft in the modern times versus books out now, there's such a diverse set of opinions and practices out there that I would say don't just read one thing or look up one thing on the internet and stick with that forever. Look around and find what fits you and what really speaks to you as a practice, and go forward in that. And also harmful magic is possible, but discouraged, highly discouraged by me. So it's better to I would say, magically speaking, my best advice is usually, but not always, it's better to cast a spell to change a situation rather than to try to change a person. It's less manipulative.
Would you say that anyone considering becoming a witch for negative reasons would be better off not becoming a witch?
Yeah, that depends. Sometimes, yes, if people just want to harm people or whatever, that they really shouldn't pursue that. But other times, if somebody has that image, that sort of stereotypical view of witches as being evil and trying to harm people, and they want to be one, so then they start researching it.
Mm-hmm.
Then they can learn the truth, and it still might speak to them. Because people come to things from such different perspectives that I think it's still better if they have the interest to try and study genuine witchcraft, so at least they're armed kind of with the truth and they understand the reality of it versus Hollywood fantasy.
Over the years of yourself being a priest, what has been the most spectacular thing that has happened with you or those that you know because of witchcraft?
That's a good question. I've had a lot of strange things happen. I lived in a house that was haunted,
mm-hmm.
and I did an exorcism. This was many years ago, like a banishing of the spirit,
mm-hmm.
and the the regular home phone, the corded old-fashioned home phone, blew up right when I got to the part where, like, be gone, kind of a thing. It was the weirdest thing. So, and I had one of my very first experiences. This is in the early 90s of doing any sort of magic. Is I tried to energetically seal the house where I lived for protection, putting energy into the walls to try to protect it. But I didn't know how to draw in energy at the time. I was using my own energy, and I exhausted myself. And I had never been so tired. That's one of the things that taught me that energy and magic are very real. Is I went around my house for like 20 minutes, but I passed out on the couch and slept for 12 hours after because I had completely depleted my own energy.
My goodness.
It was frightening at the time, but then I realized what went wrong and how to fix it, and now I can do it again, no problem.
Is it usual for a witch to be involved with exorcisms?
Not exorcisms in like the exorcist kind of way, but it's just basically a term for trying to rid something. So there are witches that hunt ghosts and try to banish ghosts, and it's not an everyday occurrence, of course, but a lot of times banishing can be an everyday occurrence in that burning some sage in your house if you feel a weird vibe or feel unhappy, or if somebody annoying comes over and then they leave, mm-hmm. and you want to sort of clear the air of any kind of frustration. Is that still banishing, but it's a much more simple method of it. It's not always about like Ghostbusters kind of a thing.
Gotcha.
But a lot of times the terms overlap because it's the same basic situation and goal.
So what new projects are you working on?
I have a shop. It goes through my website. I call it the Furious Witch Shop, and I have a line of different magical jewelry, and I've been adding more to that, and then little figurines I just call them Sabbath Cats because I made one for each of the holidays, mm-hmm. and one for the moon. I just launched that about a week ago. And I am trying to put together a workshop about making magical charms and objects and spell bottles and things that I might turn that into my next book if it goes well. Because I want to teach a workshop because I've been so involved in all the Halloween preparations, mm-hmm. that I realized I'm learning all these new techniques, like how to make magical looking books and everything, and it's just been really fun. So I want to teach other people what I learned.
Michael, we've got about a minute left. What are your final thoughts for the X-Zone Nation tonight about witchcraft?
I would say that witchcraft is really about individuality, it's about spirituality, and it's about magic both for yourself, mm-hmm. and to improve the lives of other people if they want your help. And that it's a steady process, and read and research and practice as much as you want. It's a freeing and wonderful journey.
Michael, let our listeners know where they can get copies of your books.
They are at bookstores everywhere, Barnes & Noble, on Llewellyn.com, or through my own website, michaelfurie.com.
Michael, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and I hope that you have a happy Halloween.
Thank you. You as well.
Take care, Michael. Bye-bye now. Exonation Michael Furie was my guest this hour. www.michaelfurie.com. That's MichaelFurie.com. Now, I'll be back on the other side of the news at the top of the hour at 6.5 minutes past. As we continue here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't forget to find out all about the great programming we have available for you on the X Zone Broadcast Network at www.xzbn.net. And now, check out watching the X Zone TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, on the all-new X Zone TV channel from our good friends at Simul TV, www.simultv.com.